Howdy underlings, you read the title, and if you know anything about Ayaneo, you're probably laughing with me. Ha 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 ha. Budget. Ayaneo, you're so funny. Ayaneo is a company known for one thing: taking a form factor or system that you like, making a retro emulation handheld for it, running it on Android, and giving you way more power than you actually need to emulate that system. In the end, making it cost more than anyone should have to pay for such an experience. Here's an example: Ayaneo Pocket Micro. It's shaped like a GBA Micro, but much bigger. Awesome. Love it. The glass front is gorgeous. 3:2 ratio screen, just like the GBA. Analog sticks are a bit weird though. Wait, why is it running Android? Why does it have a fingerprint scanner? Where am I? What's going on? $200. I just wanted to play Game Boy. You can do this with their other systems too, like the Pocket DS, $500, Flip 1S, $1,300. These two aren't even out, and that's the early bird deal. Ayaneo doesn't make cheap, and that works for them. The Pocket DS alone has raised 1 million Canadian. I would never pay $500 for a DS emulator handheld. The 3DS is even way cheaper than $500, even with reseller price gouging. The 3DS is still the best 3DS and DS emulator that you will find. That's it. Go buy a 3DS. It's cheaper and better. Well, I love cheap, and I know cheap, and Ayaneo is not cheap. Most of what I've done around here, besides getting a Switch 2, has been about saving money while gaming. Mostly because the Switch 2 put me into debt. So I love the idea of being cheap, and I'm hopeful for this new system. But I don't know what cheap means to Ayaneo. Their cheapest handheld is the Pocket Micro, and that was $200. That's not cheap. So I'm a little skeptical but excited for a budget handheld. I think the Pocket Micro Classic is built for someone like me, and I would totally pay $200 for that if there were any left and I was employed. Maybe I'll sell a leg and get an ace. I would love the level of quality present in Ayaneo handhelds for the price of something like the Nimzy Air X, just 80 to 90 bucks. I'm willing to pay extra for something durable and pretty, but I have a rule that I don't buy more power than what the target system needs. Why buy a sports car if I'm only going to use it once a week to grocery shop? Doesn't make sense. So the idea of a budget Ayaneo is promising. I've heard they have extraordinary build quality, and I love Android for its sleep function. A sleeping Android device lasts days. A sleeping Linux handheld lasts a day. Anyway, the Air Mini doesn't exist in a bubble, so let's talk about it. First, I think I found a name scheme bad enough to compete with Ambernick's random numbers and letters, and that's Ayaneo Pocket Air Mini, which is just saying the same thing 3 times. Pocket means small and light, Air means light, and Mini suggests small and light. May as well have called it the Ayaneo Teensy Weensy Baby. Next, there isn't much that we do know right now. Originally, this system was announced a few days ago, and it was called Code R. Ayaneo said that it would be an entry-level device, air quotes. Right now, Ayaneo's main user base is people with very expendable income, or are good about saving, or are in debt now, or are YouTubers who have been given one for free. So moving to a budget device would make business sense. As the only kind of gamer, they haven't converted yet. They also saw how positively received the Nimzy Air X was received. Hard to miss, as people Ayaneo have sent devices to in the past, like TechDweeb, have made videos about the Nimzy Air X. No shade being thrown, just stating that there is no way Ayaneo missed the Nimzy Air X. The Air is $79 for the early bird price and $90 for its regular price. When the Code R was announced, I said on the community page that companies in the retro handheld space have predictable business models. When one company has a good idea, everyone else races to make their own. When Funky came out, Powkitty, Miyoo, Ambernick, GKD all rushed to make their own microscopic handhelds. Miyoo's was the best, as everyone is still talking about it, but the Pixel was also great with its aluminum shell. The RG Nano for me came non-functioning, reflashed, and it still had graphical issues, flashed with a different software, and now the screen flickers. Ambernick releases a GBA SP form factor, everyone rushes to make their own. Retroid makes a good Android handheld, everyone has to have an Android handheld. So I said, this new Code R is probably 100% ripping off Nimzy. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I hope it is. I might actually buy it if that's the case. So here is what we know. It's a 4.3... Hold up, before you say anything else, stop it, Nimzy. Stop talking. Nimzy is talking, me, future Nimzy. So, Ayaneo updated the website with a new graphic as I was editing this, and it entirely changed my predictions and what I based my expectations around. It's also possible that I just missed it, but basically, it changes the entire tone of this video. I still remain skeptical on the pricing, but this new info suggests a much cheaper price than I was guessing. But I have a little bit more info now, and with this info, I can use it to figure out the size of the device and the price. The screen is 4.3, as I was about to say before I so rudely interrupted myself. The screen is 4.2 inches diagonal and 1280 by 960p. Having the screen size in inches tells me exactly how big the device is. A 4.2 inch 4.3 screen means a width of 3.3 inches and a height of 2.5 inches. Using a very precise measurement system, I figured out that it's about 6.5 inches long and 3 inches tall. I used my tape measure to find the closest thing I could to the same size. The RG Cube XX is 3.5 inches tall and 6.25 inches wide. I laid a picture of the cube over it until they were about the same size vertically, and I was a little off, about half an inch on each side, which makes total sense because there's no way that a 1:1 screen device would be the same dimensions as a 4:3 screen device unless the screen was significantly shrinked. So it's probably about 7 inches to 7.5 inches long. This would make it around the same size as the RG447M. If you have the RG447M, or actually really any device above the 150 mark, this Ayaneo device is probably not relevant to you. This measurement is also very close to the Nimzy Air X, but it's a little less wide. Compared to the RP Mini 2, this is bigger. The buttons appear to be a decent size, maybe a little bit smaller than the Cube XX buttons, but still bigger than older Retroid devices. So this is looking to be a sizable and comfortable handheld, but not too big. Even better though, this new picture told us target systems. Originally in this video, I'm gonna leave it in so that you can see me being wrong potentially. Originally in this video, I said that it was possibly going to be a PSP that charges 30 bucks more than the Nimzy, as the Nimzy is a very good PSP and DS. The target systems for the Pocket Air Mini is N64, PS1, and Dreamcast. The Nimzy Air X, according to Russ from Retro Game Course in his test, the Nimzy Air X runs PS1, N64, and Dreamcast pretty near flawlessly, and with widescreen hacks on some of them. Specifically, the N64, when he upscaled it, was 960p. A handheld's 960p. Nimzy also does PSP and DS very well, so we have a good idea of our price range now. Actually seriously be a budget device. If they go the route of just a little weaker than the Nimzy handheld, expect a device that should be worth around 75 to 100 bucks. If they make it as powerful, expect it to start at 100, with a little bit of an Ayaneo upcharge. This pick was great news because this one image told me so much info about it. Now I just need a side pick to confirm whether it has ergonomics. Considering I can see somewhat full-size triggers, I'm guessing yes it does, but we won't know until we see it. I'm still guessing in the $100 to $150 area, and even then that's a low ball shot for Ayaneo, and I will be really surprised if that's the case. Just because a company like Nimzy can do this for that little does not mean that Ayaneo can and will. If they can upcharge because of their brand's name and get away with it, they will do so. So I will not be surprised if this is somehow a $200 handheld at a $100 power. Alright, but back to the video, which is mostly just me complaining about Ayaneo being overpriced now, since the other stuff is irrelevant. It's a 4:3 aspect ratio. This is a great screen ratio for the widest range of screens. 4:3 is used by the majority of older systems, and for the ones it's not the best fit for, it only has minimal black bars. These small bars are pretty easy to fill the space of with like a logo or something. 16:9 is also not horrible on 4:3, as it too also only has minimal black bars, as you might remember from the VHS days. They just looked bigger back then because you were seeing it on a TV. Some may want a 16:9 for PSP, but if you're someone who plays a lot of systems, the black bars are going to be massive on a 16:9 for anything not in that ratio. But 16:9 is one of the better fits for DS if it has to be horizontal. It's going to be small. I mean, it's called the Mini. It's not going to be like a Wii U tablet and call itself small. I don't know these days, honestly. A lot of systems calling themselves handhelds when they're like, you know, more like hands held. I'd be fine with a smaller device. I'm just getting tired of these really big devices that are barely portable. I get pains in my hands and arms from playing the Switch 2 for more than 30 minutes because it's heavy and it has no ergonomics. It's just uncomfortable to hold. Handheld should be able to fit into a fanny pack. It claims to be using a world's first brand new 4:3 retro display, air quotes. Don't know if they're going to keep that entry-level promise with the cutting-edge hardware claim. We'll also learn more info later this month. The marketing materials say entry-level price, premium experience, carrying forward the classic design for retro gaming. That's kind of all we have to go on. We can still talk about the design though, and the device design can tell us a ton about the system. Looking at this handheld, you can tell what it's supposed to be able to play, which will also give us an estimated price. But we have D-pad at the top with a pseudo segmentation cut in it like the Retroid devices. It looks decently sized with the rest of the buttons. We have 2 analog sticks and they have a ton of space. Going on other handhelds by them, I'm assuming these are close to the Pocket Micro sticks. But if this is entry level, I don't know how much we'll be using that second stick. PSP has 1 stick. GameCube is the first system you can emulate that has a huge need for 2 analog sticks. So this suggests that it can at least play GameCube unless the second stick is intended for Android games or playing streamed games via something like Moonlight. PS1 can use 2 sticks, but most games don't aside from Ape Escape. Now, the Nimzy Air X, based on testing from Russ on his channel Retro Game Course, could not play GameCube the best. PS2 and Switch were straight up a no-go, and anything 3D on Android struggled. Thankfully, you don't need a ton of power to use Moonlight efficiently, but to me at this target price, a second stick isn't needed. If it was brought up to the 120, 130 range, we'd get a lot more GameCube out of it. The Retroid Pocket 3 is able to play more GameCube than the Nimzy, especially after it got some updates. That makes much more sense for 2 sticks, and I think that might be the target price for this device. At 150, we get into the range of Retroid Pocket 4, and that's even more support with a little bit of PS2. So that's probably the more likely target. If this comes out for 100, I'll be very surprised as I don't see it handling 2 analog stick systems at all. It looks like the Cube XX with a bottom that's more tapered. I haven't seen any side picks, but it looks like at the least, it might be thicker than something like a Retroid. The shoulder buttons are quite large and wide, and I think I see some triggers peeking out from the back. Standing that high, it's possible that they're full triggers, which don't really make sense for that price. You don't need full triggers for PS2 or GameCube games. No games are going to benefit from pressure-sensitive triggers that far back. Lastly, no speakers on the front, so they're probably going to be down-firing. Since it doesn't have any front-firing speakers, it will either be pretty small or pretty thin. Down-firing speakers, or worse, back-firing speakers, are a sign of the internals being cramped, but the front also being cramped with buttons too. This thing is probably going to have ventilation on the back, and if it doesn't, you're going to wish it did. Overall, I like the look of the device, and I do want one. But if it's much more than 120, I don't think I want it that bad. Android can be powerful, but there is a definite you get what you pay for with them. A budget device like Nimzy Air X is going to be a great PSP and DS handheld. It does 2 to 3 times resolution for PSP for just $90. That's fantastic, but it makes the second stick kind of pointless if it can't play, GameCube. It doesn't make sense to me to just put a second analog stick on there for like one game, like just Ape Escape. Like if you put a second stick on there, you're intending for a lot of systems to use it, and the Nimzy Air X just doesn't do that. But Nimzy is new, so give them some slack. The Ayaneo Air Mini could be similar, or it could be $150 instead and play near full GameCube. When you buy cheap Android, you're really just buying a PSP. When you're buying expensive Android, you're buying a GameCube. If it's too cheap, it runs the risk of being too middle of the road, and then you just overpaid for a PSP. Overpaying for a target system? That sounds on brand for Ayaneo. My prediction is 130. Plays PSP flawlessly, but struggles with GameCube. I think that sounds right. The same ability as the Nimzy Air X, but more expensive. If that's the case, I might just get the Nimzy Air X and use that as my dedicated PSP and DS machine. I'll like it more than the Retroid Pocket 3 because it actually has ergonomic bumps on the back. Some people have claimed that this is going to be competing with the Retroid Pocket Mini V2. That's possible. It does have Mini in the name, and it does have Air in the name. It could be going for either of them. It could be going for both of them. If it is, then we'd see it at around $175 for near the same ability as the Mini V2. If so, that's an awesome price. I don't have $200 to drop right now, but I also don't have $100 to drop right now. But it'd be something I'd pick up on a sale or used. It's been almost a year since the first RP Mini, so it's possible that cheaper hardware has come along, but the V2 has only been out for a few months, so I really don't think it's trying to compete with that. I think it's entirely possible that it won't be cheap at all. Cheap to Ayaneo doesn't mean the same as it does to the average person. It's like when Bill Gates was on Ellen and thought a bag of pizza rolls was worth $22. When you charge for $400 for a Game Boy original style handheld, $500 for a DS, $1,200 for a DS again, then pretty much anything under $400 is a steal, right? The thing is, Ayaneo has done a budget handheld before. It's not fully released, but the Conquer Pocket Fit is referred to as high performance, best value Android handheld. Want to take a guess at the price? They said it would be less than $369, so still no confirmed costs, so whatever you guessed, wrong, because nothing's confirmed yet. Ayaneo, there are 36,899 pennies below $369. Could you please narrow it down a little bit further than just under $369? This one is a little more crazy, so I guess the cost makes a little more sense. It does have full triggers, additional bumpers on the back, 2 more bumpers next to LB and RB, a trigger lock for retro games so you don't have to full press triggers, front-facing speakers, and a bunch of other features that make it a pretty good deal. We have no idea what it's capable of playing yet, but I want to say all their stuff is supposed to be like a boutique version of classic systems. The Conquer doesn't really fit into that, but but I see something like the Conquer, and I don't really think of it as being for retro gamers. The analytics at the top. That's clearly for an Android gamer, someone who needs the best device possible for Genshin or something, or maybe for people who want to moonlight. But basically, budget to Ayaneo means whatever it would cost you elsewhere, but $100 to $700 more, because they pack in a bunch of stuff that the target audience doesn't need. And I think Ayaneo is starting to realize that they're not alone in this market. Retroid made a DMG like handheld for a fourth of what they did. Mangmi is making an Android handheld for a similar cost. Ayaneo isn't the only company out there, and there aren't a lot of people willing to spend as much on Ayaneo as their existing audience does. I mean, there's Odin devices that are still much cheaper than Ayaneo devices, and I think Odin would be a better deal if you were wanting to do, $300 range retro. I think I mentioned this problem on this channel before, but the reason Ayaneo announces so many devices is because of the Instant Pot paradox. When something is high quality and cheap, everyone buys one, which is great at first. And then because it's so good, they never need to replace it. Now Instant Pot has no customers and no stable cash flow, and in 2023 they filed for bankruptcy. Capitalism doesn't let you make one amazing product and stay in business forever. You need to constantly be selling things. So you have one of two options. Make your product way more expensive than it should be, so you don't need to sell them as much, like KitchenAid stand mixers costing as much as a Conquer despite the technology being older than me, or you introduce some flaws so that the buyer never has a complete experience. Remove a headphone jack. Use an outdated charging port. The new ones have a better charging port. The D-pad on this one could be better. The buttons are too small on this one. Oh, it's almost powerful enough. See where I'm going? You make some flaws so none of them are perfect and the audience keeps buying. You can also create a billion form factors so people buy one for each gaming mood. Ayaneo moving to cheap handhelds is them admitting that they've run out of customers at the highest price points, and if they haven't, it's likely they will soon. Right now it's kind of like haggling. You won't pay $1,200 for a DS? Well, what if we made one for $500? Okay, too expensive for a handheld? How about $400? No? $300? If they're not secretly struggling, then they're probably just releasing too many devices to try and get as many new buyers as possible, and hopefully that you'll appreciate the cheap one so much that you'll stay within the Ayaneo family when you choose to upgrade. This was a little too long for just one thing, but I've been keeping an Ayaneo rant in my back pocket for a long time. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to tip your YouTuber. I accept likes and subscribes, and I will see you later. Bye!